The Mesopotamian marshes are a unique wetland area. Iraqi environmentalist Jassim al-Assadi is constantly astonished by this natural landscape at the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Whenever he comes here, he checks on the fish and the fishermen. And almost every time the fishermen tell him their catch has decreased a little. The threats to the marshes are increasing from year to year. The water is steadily diminishing and salt levels are rising. The countries along both rivers are to blame.
Right now, only 30% of the marshes are receiving water anyway. The dams various countries have built along the Euphrates and Tigris, especially in Turkey, divert the waters from the marshes. Another problem is the pollution of the water by fertilizers used in farming.
This is how it might look everywhere here in a few years. Arid, moon-like landscapes instead of lush, fertile areas. The marshes were destroyed once before. Saddam Hussein had them drained in the 1990s to flush out Shiite rebels hiding there. The residents who had been driven away have returned since then. And environmentalists like al-Assadi have managed to ensure that at least part of the 20,000 square kilometre marshland has been supplied with water in the past few years.
As you see, this area is still dried out. The water the Tigris carries this far is no longer sufficient to flood this part. 8 years ago it was different, but then the water levels diminished further. Now what grows here is the kind of scrub you can only find in the desert.
This is not just one of the largest wetland areas on Earth, it's also considered to be the cradle of Western civilization. Here in Mesopotamia, more than 6,000 years ago, the Sumerians invented the first writing system and enacted the first laws. Some people even believe that this is where the biblical Garden of Eden once lay. Hussein al-Assadi is one of the marsh Arabs, most of whom are Shia Muslims, who've lived here for more than 1,000 years. Their way of life has changed little over the centuries. Every morning he goes out with his boat to cut reeds. In addition, he owns a few water buffalo. That ensures his and his family's livelihood, but no more than that. Still, he doesn't want to leave.
I can't imagine living in a city. This is our home. We live here with our livestock and the reeds. We couldn't ever leave them here again. But if the water gets more polluted, we'll have to, because then the water buffalo will become ill.
The reeds support both humans and animals. Some of the reeds are fed to the livestock. They're also used to weave baskets and mats, and they serve as traditional building materials for the houses in the area. Hall-like reed buildings like this served as gathering places. 60,000 people still live in the marshes of southern Iraq. In working from his office to stop dam building, Jassim al-Assadi and his organization Nature Iraq are fighting to secure their existence. In particular, the environmentalists are targeting the Ilusu Dam, planned by Turkey. This controversial hydroelectric plant is supposed to dam the Tigris in southeastern Turkey, just before the border with Syria and Iraq. Ankara defends the project by citing the growing need for energy. Al-Assadi says the objections of neighboring countries have been ignored. So in the summer of last year, he and a delegation from the marshes went to the site of the planned dam to demonstrate against it.
If Ilusu is built, the effects will be felt in the marshes in 5 or 6 years at the latest. Every dam built, no matter where, has dreadful consequences for this region. It can't go on like this. In one country, water is used to generate energy. In another, that leads to desertification.
In their struggle to save the marshes, the activists now have support from environmental organizations from Europe. In contrast, the central government in Baghdad doesn't consider environmental protection a top priority. But there's only one solution to the issue of water: diplomacy.
International organizations, especially the UN, have to get together with the three countries and find a solution to the use of the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates. If they don't manage to distribute equitably the right to use the water, the conflict could lead to a water war.
It's not yet too late for this unique natural landscape in the cradle of Western civilization between the Tigris and the Euphrates.